Good afternoon, Crystal. How are you?
I am well, and yourself?
I'm great. I had some technical difficulties, so that's why I look sort of small. But I think we're going to be okay. I think we're going to be fine. So, I've got a new direction that I'm heading in called retirement readiness. I've created this thing out of this project, rather, out of experience, uh, things going on in the industry, the changes that we're making. And the big change is not only are retirement plans supposed to help people reach their retirement goal, we're going to talk about that, but they should be a tool for the business to reach its goals, a tool for the organization to reach its goals. The two are linked, as it were, they're not
Okay.
separate. So that's the new thrust, and let's just jump right in. First of all, let me read your bio
All right.
and let everybody know who we are. So, everyone, thank you for joining us. My friend and colleague is Crystal Mitchell. She is a business coach and consultant. She's the CEO of Mitchell Business Solutions, co-director of Recycling Black Dollars. She's also the co-host of another online radio show called The Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert. So please make sure you check that out. Crystal is an instructor at Mount San Antonio Community College. She's a certified network for teaching entrepreneurship instructor and a QuickBooks Pro Advisor financial strategist. Hey, Crystal.
Hey, how are you today? And how is the beginning of the week?
I'm doing great. It was a wonderful weekend. I did absolutely nothing and ready to get going this week. And so here we go.
All right. Well, let's go.
Okay. We've got a great topic that we're going to start with today called retirement readiness. And, one of the things that we talk about in this business is what's a retirement plan supposed to do? And for the most part, in my opinion, retirement plans should do dramatically more than they do. And that takes leadership and it takes just knowing how the retirement plan is supposed to work. And also having the idea, and I'm very big on this, that a retirement plan is a workforce management tool for the organization. It's a
Mm.
tool for the organization to reach its goals. And at the same time, it's a tool to help participants reach their retirement goals. And if you don't have both of those working at the same time, in my opinion, your retirement plan is not working the way that it should. So, therefore, the title of this little episode is Retirement Plans Should Do More. By the
All
way,
right.
I'm a licensed, what's that? You
I
like
said, all
that?
right.
By the way, I'm a licensed retirement plan advisor, and that's what I do for a living. So, here we go. Let's jump right in. Okay,
Okay.
big question. Are employees genuinely moving towards a financial secure retirement? And is the retirement plan becoming more valuable to the organization? So that's really what we're looking at, right? Does it help both parties? So most plans, when folks judge them, they judge them by participation or by compliance. As you know, I've been doing this business for quite some time. And when I first started, if you got 70% participation, that was great. And if you passed compliance, that was awesome. And, that was kind of it. We were really concerned about those particular metrics. And we hadn't even really gotten to whether people should actually uh, hit their retirement goal. Now, that was back when I started. We've come a long way since then. I'm not going to tell you when I started, but we've come a long way. And so now, retirement readiness is a big thing in the industry. That is, how can you measure how close your retirement plan is helping your participants get to their retirement goal, right? We all know that Many of our co-workers have lived on Social Security. That is, they retire, they live on Social Security. And I know you've read books about the old pension system, where someone would work for an organization for a while and they would get a pension afterwards. And lots of people think that was a great system. I don't want to argue whether it was or it wasn't. I'm just going to say that it wasn't as plentiful as people thought it was, and it's definitely not coming back. Right? So we have to do something about that. That is an opportunity. I'm going to call it an opportunity for those of us as participants in retirement plans to focus on retirement readiness to help us reach our retirement goals. But we all know that even when Social Security started, it was only supposed to cover 40% of your needs in retirement. The other 60% was supposed to come from investments, savings, and along down the line, even investments in your retirement plan. So we, as a general populace, have fallen short by relying upon Social Security. And we're not going to get into the reality of the situation, which is that some folks are in the point where that's the best they can do,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? I mean,
And generally your employees are not as savvy as the bosses are, and so investing on their own is definitely challenging for them because they don't understand it. They don't understand the stock market, and when you have things that took place like in 2008 that scared them to death because a lot of them lost their own property, their homes, based upon that, or a great deal of their pension plans. And so that's an area that has always been a little, it's a shadow for them.
it's
So
a what?
it's very, that's an uncomfortable place for most people because, their little money is hard. They come by hard. And so, you know, if for some of them, the stock market or investing on their own is like, going to Vegas and gambling away their paycheck, right? They have no control over. Only thing they got control over is not going and not putting the money on the table. Um,
Well said.
so, right. So that I know when I was working in HR, they just didn't even understand that at all. At because they just they thought that the retirement plan was going to be it, and in some cases it is, depending on how much money they make.
Well said. I think you're making a really, really, really good point. I was working for an organization, and the leader of the sales team came out and said, back in the 70s, the federal government came to financial advisors and said, um, essentially, your new task is to educate America's public with regard to investing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in that room I want to say in the 90s when that happened. And then the person followed it up with, "We as financial advisors failed that calling." All right, we as an industry have not taught people to invest, and it's a kind of a tough thing. Most of us take classes and go to seminars, and we get in this our whole lives. And to teach someone in 20 minutes how to actually become an investor is very difficult. And it's something that I've had to recognize over the last few years, that I am not going to turn people who don't want to be into investors. It's just, on our show, we've shifted a little bit from, hey, this is what a stock and a bond is, this is what our little chart is, to just recently, what are some things that employers can do to help people along the way, even if they're not going to become an investor? Because when
Right.
you get right down to it, if you've got a job and kids and sports and a dog and parents and all that other stuff that we have going on in our lives, you may not have the wherewithal to become an investor, but you still need to save for retirement
Yes.
and you still need to reach your retirement goals. And let's face it, you need some help getting there, right? And that
Yeah.
help has fallen on the backs of employers. I'm not saying they don't get anything out of it because the federal government has uh, made some incentives for them to do that. But the fact still remains that participating in a retirement plan does not guarantee retirement readiness. And if we don't look at that as two sides of the same coin, we're going to shortchange someone. Either the employer is going to think, I'm putting money in here, it's not doing me any good, I'm not getting anything out of it, or the employee is going to think, I don't understand what that is. I'm just going to do the minimum that I need possible, and I will hope that something happens. And as you and I both know, hope is not a strategy.
No, it's not.
Yeah. So the situation is we need to change our point of view. And that's why I created the Retirement Readiness Project to
Okay.
change the point of view of employers as well as employees, turn this into a shared community goal rather than something that one group is going after or the other group is not going after. Okay. So that's the deal. All righty. So point number one, let's look at things as they are. Number one, participation is not the same as readiness. And you and I both know that. You can be in the plan,
Yep.
right? And you can get the match, as some folks in my family suggest, get the match, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then don't do anything else. Or you can be in the plan and your employer is gracious enough to give you money, right, to make a contribution on your behalf to the plan. And that's all you do.
Mm-hmm.
That rarely works either. Most people need to save 10 to 15% of their income by the time they get to
Right.
me, the retirement plan advisor. And the employer match or the employer contribution falls short of that. From the employer's point of view, they're thinking, all right, we're going to help you out a little bit. We value you as an employee. We're going to help you out as a little bit. The employee is thinking the employer is going to give me this. They got all the money. They should give me more.
Mm. Yeah.
Those two don't meet. Where they do meet, though, is when the employer knows that the employee has a retirement goal and is going to help the retiree get there. And the employee realizes that this is a business. So their contribution to the business, their contribution to their own retirement, because it is their responsibility, is important. So if we could run the clip now, the little clip thing, then we would say that participation is not the same as retirement readiness. Let's just get rid of that myth right here and now. Just because you're in the plan doesn't mean you're going to have the ability. Doesn't mean you're going to have the ability, and doesn't mean you're going to reach your retirement goal.
No, no, not at all.
Getting in the plan is not enough.
It's interesting because when I guess after in the '98 crash, and I was working at companies at that time. It was before I really went as a sole employer, a self-employed.
98 or 2008?
No, the first one. That was when I was in the insurance industry.
Okay.
So back there, and we had that little major little thing we had there as well, which is why I got out of that industry. I had to do a pivot. But after that, there was a little space in there. I had to go back to work. I was looking for companies that had, and at that time we had the .com, so you were able to companies that were public, because then you got shares.
Yep.
And so it's like, okay, now that's nice augmentation to a pension plan, right?
Hello.
So but you had to be. I was in the industry, so I understood what needed to be done. On an average, as I said earlier, most employees are not that savvy at all.
They're not.
They don't even hear you when you say, "Here's your benefit package." You know what they hear? I get life insurance, and I get health insurance. That other stuff, I'm a long way from that. That probably ain't gonna never happen. But I get life insurance, right? When does it
Yeah, yeah,
start?
yeah,
I get health insurance. When does it start? Right.
exactly.
So that's really, I think, some of the issue right
I think you're right. I've been in that position where we were just glad to have a job.
there. Right.
Let's just get right down to it. Benefits, yeah. Oh, just sign that. Just let me get started. I need a paycheck. Let's make this happen here. I got to pay rent. And unfortunately,
Right.
that, right, yes, that short-sighted thinking
Yes.
has gotten a lot of folks in trouble, I think.
Yeah, it has.
And I know with even in my own family, as much as we know about retirement, there's still more that we need to learn. As much as we know about investing, there's still more that we need to learn because you never get it all.
Right. That's true.
And there's always something different out there. So how do you get to the point where you've got enough knowledge to where you can actually um, make good decisions? And then how long is it going to take you to get there? Are you going to be done with that job by the time you figure out what you should have done 5 to 10 to 15 years ago? And as an employer, how do you tell some employee you need to put some money away? Well, I got Johnny's baseball uniform. I've got Susie's bicycle to buy. I want to make sure Barbara has a good college. And, I need to buy my husband a new pair of shoes. A man's been walking around with these shoes that, you know, don't, they don't work.
Right.
They don't work. So
Hmm.
how do we balance all of that? And I think these times now are extremely tough for people to make balance. So I have 3 points I want to make, but one of them, of course, is participation isn't retirement readiness, but the last one is balance. We have to have balance in our lives. But let's move on to the second point.
Okay.
The second point is from the employer point of view, which is compliance. If you're an employer, you want to do the right thing. Most employers do. And if you don't do the right thing, there are fines and penalties to make sure that you do the right thing. So most employers want to make sure that they stay compliant. Um, the problem with that is, and I don't want to sound harsh here, but the problem with that is compliance is not effectiveness. Right? You can pass all the tests. Make sure that your top hat is taken care of. Make sure that your average contribution is in line. Maybe make sure that your average deferral is in line. Make sure all the tests are spot on and you're doing the right thing. And yet, your employees still may be confused. Your plan may be underfunded. And these folks aren't reaching their retirement dream, their goal. And what does that mean to you as an employer? Maybe they're not going to retire at 65.
Yeah.
Maybe they're, not going to reach that next promotion or reach that contribution, or maybe they're just going to leave because,
Yeah.
they're not making enough money. So your retirement plan becomes a workforce management tool as well as a way to make sure that you keep the best employees for as long as you need them to be there. Right? So that's number 2. Compliance is not the same as readiness. Clip number 2. Clip number 3. I love this clip thing. Clip number 3.
Oh.
And that is that retirement is a business issue. I mean, when you get right down to it, right? It's a business issue. We all know that when you're first out of school, and I don't want to sound prejudiced this way, but when you're first out of school, we're trying to pay the rent, get some beer, and maybe, go to a club or something like that. We're really not thinking about long-term things. Once we become a little bit more mature in our jobs, then we start thinking about, okay, this is starting to be a career here. So now that benefit package is really strong, right?
Mm-hmm.
I like to say once you get into your 30s and usually by your 40s for sure, people have responsibilities. They have parents, they have children, they have certain mixes of those things. They have houses or they have a responsibility. Hopefully they have someone else in their life. There's stuff going on in your life.
Right.
So therefore, you've got responsibilities. You may be looking at, I need to delay retirement. I need to think about things I'm going to do for my children. I need to think about my parents. I need to think about all of these things. So how am I supposed to invest for my retirement? You have to. You got it. You have to do it. That is the deal. How do I do that? I don't know, so I'm just not going to do it. So if I was going to look at clip number 3, I would say retirement is a business issue, because if that employee, after working for you for 10 years, and they started in their 20s and now in their 30s, you've invested a lot in them. And if your retirement plan, your benefit package isn't up to par, and by that I don't mean competitive, I mean interested in those people, because now it's more than just being competitive. Now it's, why am I here, right? If I could just be a cog or something, I don't need to be here. Why am I here?
Right.
Then you're going to lose that employee. So that's 10 years of invested. Now you've got to go back and train somebody else. Hopefully they've got all that knowledge, knows how to work in your company. That's grim. And another thing I'll add, that
I think you made a key point right there, though. There was a time that, and I think I've discussed this before, and we've discussed this before, that employers understood the value of having a solid, stable employee roster, right? Everyone was qualified, you know, no, the turnover was down, and their employees were invested in the business, right? It was their place of work. They were proud of where they worked, and so therefore they were going to do their best. And then, of course, you in turn was going to make sure that you're not only concerned about how they were putting on the food on the table in the now, but also what was it going to look like, if they stayed with you 10, 15, 20, 30 years into retirement. I don't think that's a lot of the focus of the employer today. It's kind of, let me get what I'm gonna get from you right now, and they don't realize from an HR standpoint how costly it is to bring on employees, and how costly it is to have high turnover in your place of work.
Oh, I think they're beginning to figure that out.
Because that's a big bottom line, right? If your employees are not happy, then they're not producing, and they're not selling, and they're not helping your company rise or scale or grow. So that's a big thing. But we've gone through a moment where I can get new employees tomorrow. There's an abundance of people out there that want to work. There may be an abundance of human bodies out there that may want to work, but it's not a whole lot of expertise in your area.
Hello, exactly.
Right? So yeah, they should be, because that's important. And I've seen that from an HR and a accounting level, because I see the financials, and this high turnover and this training and all this time and the learning curve is costing you big money to use or do that.
It is. It is. And I think you're making a good point. And I, of course, I have to come from the other point of view, because I totally believe in what you're saying. I really do.
Yeah.
On the other hand, though, I know tons of people that even I went to school with who wanted to be serial entrepreneurs. They would work for a company for 2 years, leave, go back, get their graduate degree, work for a company for a couple of years, leave, become a consultant, and then decide that they're going to work from home. So the employers are also looking at a situation where, how am I supposed to invest in this employee for the long term when there's a very good chance, especially if they have a graduate degree, that they're going to come in, work for a couple of years and leave, and become some kind of consultant. And that's a big thing. And it's becoming even more and more prevalent. As our economy shifts from, and I think COVID had a lot to do with this, but as our economy shifts from the point where, we used to find a company, quote unquote. We hoped it was a good company, but we found a company that we worked 25 or 30 years for, to a company that we work for as long as that company meets our needs, right? And our needs are shifting, right?
Right.
And God bless you, they should, they do. We are not the same people that we were at 25, at
No.
50. So that is a change. So I think you're making a very good point, a very good point. And I think there's the other point of view as well. I think that's one of the reasons why I'm really big on this retirement readiness thing, because in the middle of those 2 points is companies caring about employees and employees caring about companies. And how do we mesh that? I think we do it with retirement readiness. I think we do it with, let's make sure that if you're going to work for this company for the next 10, 15, or 20 years, that you feel the company is investing in you. And I love the way you said that. The company is investing in you. And if you're the company, if you are going to invest in an employee, let's make sure that that employee is going to hang out for a little while,
Yeah, that's
so
true.
that you can reap the rewards of the investment, because it's tough out there, I think, on both sides. And one of the reasons we have serial entrepreneurs is because they don't want to work for somebody for 15 years and to get the gold-plated watch and say goodbye. That wasn't cutting it. That's just not the way things are gonna. That just doesn't get it done. So I certainly do appreciate the point that you're making there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it takes a little bit of both, right? It has to, because I know one of the things I did was one of my employers. I was a pretty valuable person on the property, and so I just convinced them that I could still be there, but as a consultant,
Mm-hmm.
and how that benefited them on the
Yeah.
bottom line.
Uh-huh.
And so we did that for about 4 years. And they were my first client, and so it wasn't like I wasn't there. I was. I came in a couple times a week, but most of what I did was available on call, and until it eventually faded out. But you're right on both sides. You know what really changed that though was the tech industry, because the only way the tech industry was able to increase sizable increasing their salaries was to leave every 2 3 years, and then they got like a 10 to 20,000 dollar bump, and that just became kind of commonplace. That's when that started.
Yeah. And I think God bless them. You get it while you can, but
Yeah,
that didn't happen in the bricklayer industry.
no, it did not. It
It,
did
it
not.
didn't happen
Yeah,
in the automotive industry, let's say. It certainly didn't happen in the child rearing industry.
no,
So you gotta you gotta you gotta kind of watch where you are there.
right, exactly. It wasn't across the board. it was in it was in high net worth industries. That's what it was in.
So if I was going to make another clip, and I will make another clip, I would say directly to the camera, retirement readiness is a business issue.
Yeah,
Delayed retirement can cause, well, it just affects workforce planning, right? When you get right down to it, workforce planning.
yeah,
Right? So if folks are looking at succession, they're looking at morale, they're looking at recruiting, they're looking at, as you so eloquently brought up, cost, then having a solid benefit package is a good thing,
it is.
right? It's a
Mhm.
workforce management tool, and it's a way to help people reach their retirement goal.
Yeah, I
So
think so.
when we're looking at a retirement plan, I'll just look at it from the employer's point of view. When we're looking at the retirement plan, the question that employer's got to ask themselves is, how does this retirement plan become more valuable to my organization? Right? What am I doing for these employees so that they feel like they're being invested in, so that they want to stay here, so that they're going to stay here for 10 years or so? What is my incentive through my benefit program that's going to make that happen? And if the employee is looking at that retirement plan, he's got to say, or she's got to say, Am I going to work for these guys for a few years? Is this going to be where I've got some security, or am I just another cog in this machine and I'm going to be out of here as soon as I get another opportunity?
Right.
I mean, I've had one person say to me that after she got her new job, her workmates took her to lunch and said, "Welcome to the last job you're ever going to get."
Ah,
Can you imagine? Pretty cool.
wow.
I don't know if you can hear this tapping behind me, but the studio next door is having some workplace issues.
Oh,
Okay, so just to recap,
okay.
and then I'll give you the last word,
Okay.
if you'd like that. Number one, participation is not the same as retirement readiness, right? So let's make sure that we know about that. Number two, compliance is not the same as effectiveness. And then number three, retirement readiness is a business issue. So we're talking to specifically to employers there. So with
Yeah,
that,
I think this is a good direction because I mean we're all in the service oriented business, right? We want to make sure our clients, whomever that may be, our service, and I think that constant information, via like you said, LinkedIn or newsletters. Uh, to both to the employers. Let me ask this one question before we close the show today. How often, in your opinion, has do employers actually have meetings with their employees in regards to their? Is it an annual thing? Is it a only when I hire you thing? What is normally the
I've been in this business for almost 30 years, and I can tell you that uh, dependent upon the business model and the industry that you're in, uh, can give you all kinds of different answers to that question.
okay?
I've had plans at industries where if the employer is going to offer a meeting, they need to shut down the shift that's leaving, the shift where the meeting's happening, and they need to delay the shift that's coming, um, in order to have that hour meeting, which
Oh,
means that they've got a huge amount of shutdown cost and a huge amount of rising cost. So
yeah.
we need to be really careful about shutting that down. And so they may only have one meeting a year or two meetings a year. On the other hand, I've worked with firms where people are all spread out, and so until we had COVID, we really didn't do that Zoom thing, right? So
Right.
now we can reach all those folks, but they're working. And of course, they've got all kinds of lunches and what have you. So the employer is trying to juggle, when am I going to have this meeting? Am I going to have it all these different times? Who's going to show up? I, as an advisor, have offered to most of my clients that I'll do Saturday meetings and evening meetings, right?
Mm,
Because I realize that sometimes the retirement plan is a family decision.
yeah.
And so having both spouses there is a good thing, right? If they
Yes.
can swing it. Um, but I don't have children, so I don't know what it means to make sure that one spouse is taking one child to the ballet thing and one child to the to the baseball diamond, right?
All over the
So
place.
there's stuff going on there, right? So I can tell you that there are some employers who really just say, you know what, it's your retirement, it's your responsibility, you need
Mm,
to take care of it, and
mm,
that is true. I mean, you have to realize that is true. And there are others, um, plan sponsors who really feel that they need to help people out. I remember when I first got a 401k plan, the HR manager said to me, "Hey, get in the plan. And look, the way this thing works, if you need to pay a bill, like your credit card bill, you can take some money out and you can do that." And I was like, "Oh, I'm not a good saver. That ought to work." And of course, he just wanted me to get in the plan, right?
right,
And
exactly. He didn't tell you what
knew
that really meant, though,
that
huh?
he knew that I wasn't going to take the money out to pay a credit card bill because I forgot I even had the money in the plan.
Right,
Deal.
exactly,
So he
exactly.
just wanted to get me started, and it did.
Yeah,
It got me started.
Okay.
And I didn't take the money out because I forgot about it, to be honest with you. So there's all kinds of, I don't know, colors in the paint, if that's
Yeah.
the right way to say it.
Colors in the paint. No, but I do think, however, that's a good direction for you. I think people have gotten to certain places, especially with those of us that over 50 with the AARP. It keeps you informed. At least it gets you,
Yes.
it puts it on your mind, right? On what you need and how much you need, and how to check your this and that. And so I think with all of those things working together, then the employee uh, could become better informed.
Well, and this is probably a topic for another show. First of all, let me say that from my understanding of what the Department of Labor says, the employer is not obligated to have any meetings at all,
No, right.
right? They're obligated to operate in the best interest of their employees and to educate them. But the
Hmm.
way they educate them, that's debatable, right? So if your employer does decide to have a meeting, and lots of times that's pushed by HR, if your employer does, then I take advantage of that.
Yeah.
Right? That's a good thing. Uh,
Okay.
but that's the way that goes. So I tell you what, I'll read your bio. I think that was the last word, wasn't it?
It was.
Okay, let me read your bio and we'll close the show out. Here we go.
Okay.
Thank you, Crystal, for hanging out with me. Thank you there in the audience. My companion here is Crystal Mitchell. She's the business coach and consultant. She's the CEO of Mitchell Business Solutions, co-director of Recycling Black Dollars. She's also the co-host of the Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert, a weekly online radio show, which means she doesn't sleep. I don't know how she. She's an instructor at Mount San Antonio Community College, a certified network for teaching entrepreneurship instructor, and a QuickBooks Pro Advisor financial strategist. Crystal, thank you so much. Always a pleasure. I'm Jevon Thomas, and this has been On the Patio.
Hello.
See
Bye
you.
bye, everyone. Have a great week. Be safe out there.
I can't hit the button.